Alright, in this video we're going to be correcting sentence 3, 4, and 5 under Set 9. Let's take a look at sentence 3. It says, in 365 amazing days in sports, he takes a day-by-day look at sports and history. This sentence also comes with a hint which will help us correct our sentence, and the hint says that this author of the book is Eric Sherman. So first we have an indefinite pronoun reference. We also need to add punctuation to show that we have a title, and we're going to be adding a comma. So first, let's begin with our indefinite pronoun reference. So now remember, when we have an indefinite pronoun reference, that really means that we have a pronoun that's kind of vague, which leads us to wonder what we're actually talking about in our sentence. The indefinite pronoun in this sentence is the word he. Without our hint, we would not know who he is. So we need to make our sentence much more clear by replacing this pronoun he with the author's name. That would fix our indefinite pronoun reference error. We also need to add punctuation to show that we have a title. Our title in this sentence is 365 Amazing Days in Sports. Now, we are either going to add quotation marks, or we're going to add underlining to show that the title should be in italics. It all comes down to which category this title falls into. It's either going to be shorter works or major. Again, this sentence has given us a hint. Our hint is book. Books are considered to be major works, and major works should be underlined or in italics. So I'm going to underline my title. And again, we would typically use italics, but we cannot italicize printed text, and so the underlining will suffice. And lastly, we need to add a comma. And our comma is going to go right after sports, because this phrase, in 365 amazing days in sports, is being used as an introductory phrase, and if you read the sentence out loud, you would most likely hear a slight pause after sports, which again would indicate the comma. Now let's take a look at sentence 4. Sentence 4 says, more than 50 times a year, lightning strikes the Empire State Building. It causes an average of 400 deaths and 1,000 injuries every year. Again, we have indefinite pronoun reference error. This it could refer to two different things. We could be talking about lightning strikes in general, or we could be talking about lightning strikes that hit the Empire State Building. We want to make our sentence as clear as possible, so I'm going to replace this pronoun with the noun it most likely replaces, which is just lightning. That would fix my indefinite pronoun reference. Next, I need to fix some capitalization errors. So I'm going to capitalize Empire, State, and Building. And lastly, I have a comma splice. When we talked about comma splice last time, we learned that a comma splice is when a comma is being used as end punctuation. However, a comma just isn't strong enough to hold two complete sentences together. So, I need to replace this comma with either a period or a semicolon. I am going to replace this comma with a semicolon, and that would fix my comma splice. And lastly, let's take a look at sentence 5. Sentence 5 says, a panophobe, in Greek pan means all and phobia means fear, is a person whom fears everything. They would probably not be a lot of fun to be around. In this sentence, we have pronoun antecedent agreement error. So remember, we need to make sure our pronoun agrees with our subject in number. A panophobe is singular, but we've used the plural they. So I'm going to replace this they with our singular pronouns. Again, remember, the Merriam-Webster dictionary has added they as a singular option, so I am going to include that pronoun there. And that would fix our pronoun antecedent agreement error. Next, we need to make sure we're using the right word. Now, although whom just sounds fancier, whom has not been used correctly, So I'm going to get rid of that M. And lastly, I need to address the spelling of a lot. A lot is actually two separate words, so I'm going to show that in my sentence. And lastly, I have a run-on sentence. Remember, a run-on sentence is when we have two or more sentences smashed into one without the correct punctuation. Now, in order to fix a run-on sentence, we need to identify the end of our first sentence and the start of our second. We can typically tell where one sentence ends, where there's a natural pause. So I'm going to read this sentence again, and I want you to listen for a natural pause. A panophobe, in Greek, pan means all and phobia means fear, is a person who fears everything. He, she, they would probably not be a lot of fun to be around. You most likely heard a pause after everything. That's because everything marks the end of our first sentence. So, just like we did for our comma splice, we can either use a period or we can use a semicolon. I'm going to add a semicolon because then I don't have to change my capitalization of the next letter. And now we've corrected our sentences. If you have any questions about how or why we've corrected the sentences the way we have, please feel free to reach out and I'll be sure to answer your questions as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, everyone.